Welcome to Rom Wills Money Matters. The responsibility of being a business owner. The responsibility. Yeah, I'm going to tell you what. One thing you have to have as a business owner, you have to have responsibility or accountability. See, that's, one thing. And once again, working on these 1,000 jobs. I always say 1,000. It wasn't literally 1,000. It was a whole lot, though. There were some jobs I could go in and, I could work my butt off and all of that. And, I do well, stay on it. But then there were some jobs, I ain't gonna lie, I could go and do whatever. And I've seen people do whatever. You don't have any real responsibility outside of just showing up and doing whatever the manager says. And trust me, out of the many jobs I've had, it is jobs I've had where all I had to do was just be cool with the manager, the boss, whatever. And then there's some other jobs, I was cool with them, but I could work real hard. But even then, they would get the they would get the credit for something done. It was like, hey, your crew did something. It was like, they didn't do anything. Her crew did the work, or his crew did the work, right? But one thing, when you are a business owner, you're responsible for it. You're responsible for it. You have to decide when you're going to get up in the morning and start working on that job. Or if you have maybe, like say you have a brick and mortar, you can't wait for somebody else to show up and say, oh, I'll show up late or something like that. You're responsible. And that's very important. If you're going to be an owner, it's one thing to own a business, but you're responsible for everything. I talked a couple of times about a shoe shop that was in my area, and the owner of it, he wasn't responsible. There were some days he wouldn't be there. He would show up whenever, and somebody else ended up buying the business and taking over. And doing a better job. But he wasn't responsible. See, one thing, if you're in a business, you're responsible. You can't look at somebody else. You can't say somebody else is going to do something. Even if you hire people, you're still responsible. If they don't show up, they don't do something, you might have to go in. Like if they decide, well, I'm going to quit, you might have to go in. It might be late at night or in the evening, you chilling and stuff. You did your work for that day. They calling you up and, they saying, hey, a pipe burst or something like that. You're responsible. But, that's not a bad thing because you're the owner. You're the owner. And you're going to have some instances where you probably be annoyed. There's a guy I follow on Instagram. And his store got hit by a pipe burst. One of his stores got hit by a pipe burst. Had water all over the place. And it bothered him and everything, but you know what? He was still responsible. He had other stores anyway. And he was annoyed by it, but he still took the responsibility. One thing, if you're going to be a business owner, you can't blame anybody. Everything falls on you. Even if you get bad employees. Let me talk about that for a second. For anybody who wants to have an employee firm, you are responsible for who you hire. You have to think about, okay, is this person going to do a good job? That's on you. You could say, well, no, they were bad, they were this or that. It was like, no, you hired them. And there's nothing wrong with that because you're the owner. You have to be concerned about whether the bills are paid, taxes, all of that. You. And somebody might hear that and say, no, I don't want to do that. Well, you don't need to be a business owner. That's one thing. If you're going to be an owner, it's on you. You're in charge. You are the boss. There's no one over you. There's no one over you. And that's very important. And trust me, with any business, especially you start out, hey, you might have to do some stuff. I've heard of business owners. They might have a brick and mortar store where they actually sleeping at the store, but they're responsible. Or hiring people. they're responsible. Or, even taking care of something, if somebody's stealing something, they're responsible. Or, you might have to fire somebody. That's on you to fire. And now somebody might hear all that and say, nah, I don't want to do that. You don't need to be an owner then. Because everything falls on you. That's your business. That's you had to get the money to start that business. You had to do all of that stuff. You did. So if you're going to get into business, it's interesting because you get some people, then they'll think, oh, I'll start this business and I'll make all this money. Okay, maybe. If you work hard, but you've got to be responsible for every little thing. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. You might have a brick and mortar, so you got to be responsible. And I've seen some business owners, they were the ones in there cleaning up, dusting everything, making sure everything looked nice. They were the ones because they knew they had to do it. They were scrubbing, doing all that because it was their business. They didn't wait for anybody else or say, oh, well, I'm going to hire somebody. First of all, they might not can hire somebody to clean up in there. So they have to do it. That's very important. They got to make sure, hey, if they have employees, they got to make sure they're paid. Any problems come up, it ultimately falls on them. They can have all the employees in the world, they can have all the managers, but ultimately it falls on them. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Because you know why? That person is the owner. If that's on you, you're the owner. Your business card says owner. You're the one who's ultimately going to benefit from that business. And so you got to be responsible. Keeping it clean, keeping the area clean, making sure everything looks nice if it's a brick and mortar, making sure everything is mailed properly. It could be an online business. You're the one who has to make sure everything gets packed. Yeah, and maybe you hire some people. You got to be responsible for them. You got to make sure the products are good. If you like a solopreneur providing a service, you got to provide great service. Make sure you have everything that you need for it. You got to make sure you on time. You can't lean on anybody else. You can't be one of those people who just say, oh, I'm gonna show up and just get paid. No, you gotta be responsible for everything. Now, if you can't do that, if you have problems doing that, well, you probably can't be a business owner. But as I said, owning a business is powerful, but it's also great power. As they say in the Spider-Man comic books, with great power comes great responsibility. You have to be responsible for everything and taking care of everything. And there's nothing wrong with that because the reward is greater than whatever that you have to deal with. The reward is greater. Oh, so what? You got to clean up in there sometime or all the time, really. So what? You own it. So what? You have to worry about the paperwork and accounting and all of that. You own it. You own it. Just think about that. Keep that in mind. You are responsible, all right? So I want y'all to think about that. So y'all know the deal. Let's go make that money.